part 2 of the review video. And so the next thing that we really worked on was we worked on simplifying algebraic expressions. And so simplifying means just taking it as far as you can take it. And sometimes that's with numbers and sometimes that's with variables. So simplifying expressions, you're not solving for x. There's usually no equal to sign. You're just simplifying, okay? So it might look like something like, let me get a new color. It might look like something like 8x minus 7y, or the quantity of 7y, plus 9 minus 5x plus 6y. And the thing that I've been saying all along, and I know that some of you don't do it, and if you're getting an A, then I don't care, but the rest of you really should be rewriting this equation, and you should be changing all of your subtraction signs to a negative. And so I'm going to rewrite my equation showing that I changed my subtraction to addition and changed my power.
You forgot x.
And now I'm going to solve my problem. And so I always use GEMDAS. I have to follow my rules of order of operations. You have to. Every single problem you have to do GEMDAS. So the first thing I can do is I can look at what's in my grouping symbols and I can say, okay, I'm at G, I'm at my grouping symbols. Is there anything that I can do inside of this parenthesis? No, there's not. The only thing that I can do to get rid of my parentheses is I can distribute this one. So I'm going to cross off my grouping symbols, and I don't actually have any exponents. So I'm going to take care of the grouping symbols just by distributing that -1. So I get 8x plus, and a -1 times 7y is -7y, and a -1 times a +9 is a -9. And a -1 times a -5 is a +5, and I've got the x plus a 6y. And now I have to combine my like terms. So I'm going to say, okay, I've got some x's. I got 5x and I've got 8x, and that makes a total of 13 x's. And when you're doing this, you're actually using your addition and subtraction of integers to do these kinds of simplification problems. And then you have a 6y positive and a -7y, which makes a negative y. And then you have this -9 left. And nothing else can be combined. So this is your final answer. Okay, and we're going to try another one. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. We're going to try another problem. So another problem would look like 15x plus 3x times the quantity of 6x minus 4 minus a 9x squared minus a 7. And so again, I'm going to rewrite my problem, changing all of my subtraction signs to addition. So I'm not going to worry about anything except changing those subtraction signs. And this is going to save you when you do your multiplication and to make sure that you don't drop anything, especially those negatives. So in order to solve my grouping symbols, I have to distribute this -3. It has to be distributed to both pieces. So I have 15x plus, and 3 times 6 is 18, and x times x is x squared, plus a 3 times a -4, which is a -12, and then I still have my x, plus a -9x squared, plus a -7. And now I'm going to combine my like terms. I'm going to start with my squares. So I have 18x squared, and I have 9x squared. So some of them are positive, and some of them are negative, and I get 9x squared when I combine them. And now I'm going to do my 15x and my -12x, which gives me a +3x, and then I have my -7 left. And this is my final answer. Okay? Now it gets harder because they want you to use GEMDAS and they want you to be able to simplify, but they started giving you equations where you had to plug in numbers. And the numbers that they gave you were not always the most fabulous to use. So in this instance, A is 2, B is -5, C is 4, okay? And so you have to show your steps. And part of the grading on these types of problems is, did you show your steps? Did you show your work? So I'm going to plug in my B value, which is a -5, and I'm going to square it. Minus a 4 times my A, which is 2, times my C, which is 4. Okay? And now I'm going to say, hey, I need to change my subtraction signs. I have to. To make sure that I don't drop a negative, I'm just going to rewrite my problem, but I'm going to change my subtraction to adding the opposite. Okay, and now I can say negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. And a negative 4 times a positive 2 is a negative 8 times that 4. And I still have to do my multiplication before I can add. So negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. And when I add these two together, I'm actually subtracting because this guy is a negative and this guy is a positive. So it's really a difference of 7. And because this one is bigger or appears to be bigger, the answer is negative 7. Okay? And I'm going to do one more because they like to give these to you with fractions. And they like to make them look a little crazy. So here is 9d minus 2b squared divided by 5. And A is 2, B is negative 5, C is 4, and D is negative 1/3. Okay, so I'm going to start by just plugging everything in. 9 times D, and my D is negative 1/3, minus a 2 times the B squared, and B is negative 5, squared, divided by 5. Okay, so I'm going to start with my grouping symbols, which you can't do anything inside of these grouping symbols. So then I go to my exponents, which means that I really have to write this problem first, or this part of the problem first. And I have to do my negative 5 squared. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Okay, over 5. And now I'm going to take the time to change my subtraction to addition and change my power. Okay? And now I'm going to solve. 9 times a 1/3, I'm going to come over to the side of my paper and do 9 over 1 times 1 over 3. And this one's a negative, so a negative times a negative is going to give me a negative. And there's an equivalent form of 1 hidden in here. Okay, and so I get a negative, or a 3 times a negative 1 is a negative 3. So when you combine 9 times 1/3, you get negative 3 plus. And again, I can see an equivalent form of 1. I can say that 25 is really 5 times 5. And now I have an equivalent form of 1 that's gone. And negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And negative 3 plus negative 10 is negative 13. And so that's my final answer. I'm going to pause and do a third video.